Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're cracking open something really foundational to, well, pretty much everything digital.
Yeah, that unseen stuff that lets software talk to each other. We've got this great article that really goes deep on APIs, application programming interfaces.
Exactly. And this source, it really lays out, what they are, why they're such a game changer for developers.
It walks through the different kinds and even highlights some pretty cool free public ones you can use right now.
So that's our mission for this deep dive,
Hmm.
basically, to unpack all of that. What are APIs? Why are they so essential?
Not just useful. Yeah, essential. Explore the different types you bump into.
And definitely spotlight those free public options. It's really about understanding how these building blocks speed things up so much.
Right. How they let developers build amazing stuff without constantly reinventing the wheel. It's leveraging connectivity.
Making things faster.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. What is an API, fundamentally?
Well, think of it as a defined set of rules. Protocols, maybe. They let different software applications actually communicate.
So it's the messenger, the interface, letting app A ask app B for something.
Precisely. App A sends a request, maybe for data or a service, and the API ensures App B can understand it and send a response back in a structured way.
Ah, okay, so it's like the waiter analogy. You tell the waiter the API what you want from the kitchen app B.
Perfect analogy.
Check.
And the waiter brings it back. You don't need to know how the kitchen works.
Just how to order.
Exactly. And the real purpose, like our source says, is letting developers add features, maybe complex ones, by using services someone else already built.
Right, tapping into existing capabilities. The article had that CAD hailing app example, which was pretty clear.
Yeah, needing a map.
Yeah.
You wouldn't build your own global mapping system, would you?
God, no. That sounds like years of work.
Right. So you use a map API provided by, Google Maps or someone similar.
And that frees you up to focus on the actual cab part, the unique stuff.
Huge time and cost saver. You focus on driver matching, payments, the UI, not building maps.
And the article touched on how they communicate, mentioned things like REST, SOAP, GraphQL.
Yeah, those are different architectural styles or protocols, basically different ways to structure those rules and the communication format.
So different flavors of APIs, you could say.
Kind of. REST is very common, often seen as simpler, using standard web stuff. SOAP is maybe more structured, stricter. GraphQL is another approach.
The key thing is they provide that agreed upon method so the software can understand each other.
Exactly that.
Got it. So it's not just one generic thing. Now, the article breaks down 4 common types, especially for web services.
That does. First up, you've got public APIs.
Okay, public meaning anyone can use them, developers outside the company that built it.
Generally, yes. They're designed for public integration. But public doesn't mean totally uncontrolled.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, the article notes you'll likely still need to register, get an API key, maybe some other authentication, just to manage usage.
Okay, publicly available, but with rules. Makes sense. Then there are internal APIs.
Right, sometimes called private APIs. These are built strictly for use inside an organization.
Ah, so connecting their own internal systems, like different departments or microservices?
Exactly. They let internal components share data securely, behind the company firewall,
Yeah.
not meant for the outside world at all.
Keeping the internal machinery running smoothly. Got it. What about partner APIs?
Partner APIs are kind of in the middle. They're not public, but they're not purely internal either.
So for specific business partners?
Precisely. Allows a company to give specific, maybe more tailored access or features to trusted collaborators. More control than a fully public API.
Right, tailored access.
Oh.
Okay. And the last one the article mentioned was composite APIs.
Yeah, these are pretty smart. They let a developer bundle multiple requests into a single call.
Oh, instead of making 5 separate calls to get different bits of info?
Exactly. Your app makes one call to the Composite API, and it goes and talks to multiple back-end services,
Ooh,
gathers everything, and sends it back in one go.
that sounds way more efficient. Fewer round trips to the server, less network traffic.
Definitely speeds things up.
Okay, so we have the what and the types. Now, let's really dig into the why. The article really stresses why APIs are so crucial for developers. What are the big reasons?
Well, a huge one is rapid development. We touched on it, but it's key.
Right, the not reinventing the wheel aspect.
Yeah, you integrate existing functionality, mapping, payments, whatever, instead of building it from scratch. It just massively accelerates getting a product out.
Like using pre-made components, total sense. It also mentioned communication between systems.
Yes, absolutely vital. Think about how complex software is today. Different systems, we built with different tech stacks,
How do they talk?
APIs. They provide that standard interface layer. Doesn't matter if one part is Java and another is Python. If they agree on the API, they can communicate.
Without APIs, it'd be a nightmare of custom, brittle integrations, I imagine.
Oh, totally. And that standardization leads right into reusability.
Build it once, use it many times.
Exactly. Build a service, expose it via an API, and now multiple projects or teams can use that same functionality. Or if it's public, many external developers.
And speaking of multiple people, the article highlighted collaboration. How do APIs help there?
They act like a contract. A front-end team working on the user interface and a back-end team working on the server logic can work in parallel.
Because they just need to agree on the API connecting them.
Precisely. The API spec is the common ground. They can build towards that independently, knowing it'll connect up later. Big efficiency gain.
Makes sense. The source also mentioned cross-platform compatibility.
Yeah, critical today. Web, iOS, Android.com stage, like users expect a consistent experience.
APIs help provide that.
They do. By offering a structured way to get data and trigger actions, they make it easier to build clients for different platforms that all talk to the same back-end services.
Okay, and what about scalability? How do APIs help an app grow?
Often, you can scale parts of your application by leaning on external services via APIs. Need heavy-duty image processing? Maybe use a Cloud AI Service API.
So you integrate an external service instead of having to build and scale that capability entirely yourself.
Right. It lets you add capacity or functionality more incrementally without maybe huge changes to your core app.
And finally, the article mentioned they let you easily extend applications.
Yes. This is where it's really powerful for adding features quickly. Think payments.
Like Stripe or PayPal.
Exactly. You don't become a payments expert overnight. You integrate their API. Same for weather data, location tracking, social logins, embedding videos.
The article listed common use cases like payment, social media, content management, widgets.
All enabled by APIs connecting different services together.
It really paints a picture of APIs as these essential connectors. Now, the article spent a good chunk of time on free public APIs. Why are these so important?
They're fantastic because they just lower the barrier to entry so much, especially for learners, hobbyists, startups.
You can just start building stuff without paying up front.
Yeah, you can experiment, integrate real data, prototype ideas, even build initial product versions without that financial hurdle. It's a huge enabler for innovation.
But even though they're free, there's still security involved, right? Authentication.
Oh, definitely. Providers need to manage usage, prevent abuse, secure data. The article lists common methods, like API keys.
Okay, that's like a unique code you get when you sign up.
Pretty much. You include it in your request to identify your application and authenticate it. Helps the provider track usage too.
Got it. What about OAuth? That sounds familiar.
OAuth Open Authorization is a standard protocol. It lets a user grant your application limited access to their data on another service.
Like, allow this app to access your photos, but without giving the app my main login password for that photo service.
Exactly. You authorize the access, but your credentials stay safe. Very common for social logins or accessing cloud storage.
Smart. What about JSON Web Tokens or JWTs?
JWTs are common in modern web apps. You log in, the server gives you a JWT, which is like a digitally signed token.
You get a temporary pass.
Kind of. You include that token in subsequent API requests, usually in the header, to prove you're authenticated. Avoid sending username password every time.
Efficient. And sometimes just custom headers.
Yes, some APIs might require specific headers for authentication or to pass certain info, maybe alongside other methods.
Okay, so even free APIs have robust ways to manage access. Now, for the fun part, the actual examples the article gave.
Right. Real things you can use, like JSONPlaceholder.
Oh, yeah, the fake API for testing.
Exactly. Provides dummy data posts, comments, users, photos. Super useful if you're building a front end and need data to work with before the real back end is ready.
Or just for testing how your app handles data. The article said it's supported by sponsors.
Yeah, which keeps it free. Really handy resource.
Definitely. How about the Unsplash API?
That gives you access to Unsplash's huge library of high-quality, royalty-free photos.
Oh, nice. So if your app needs images.
Perfect for that. Blog platforms, presentation tools, anything visual. Easy to integrate beautiful images programmatically. Good docs, too, the article mentioned.
Very useful. What about the free dictionary API?
Does what it says on the tin. Definitions, synonyms, parts of speech. You could use it in learning apps, maybe voice assistants, word games.
Lots of possibilities. Accepts donations, the article said.
Yeah, nice way to support it if you use it.
Okay. Geography data. REST countries API.
Yep, provides detailed info about countries via a RESTful API. Great for anything needing country data, e-commerce, shipping, location-based services, educational tools.
Essential for lots of global apps and for sports fans.
There's the SportsDB, free database of scores, events, teams, players. You do need to register for a key.
And there are rate limits, right?
Yeah, the free plan has limits on requests per minute a day, pretty standard for free tiers. Paid plans offer more if you need higher volume.
Important to check those limits. Speaking of limits, the Joke API seemed interesting.
Yeah, a fun one. Delivers jokes via a REST API. Super simple, no key, no auth needed.
But it had a hard limit.
Yeah, 120 requests per minute. The article mentioned this was specifically because they'd been hit by denial of service attacks before.
Wow, shows the challenges of running a free service.
Definitely.
Then there's the big one, the YouTube API.
Hugely powerful. Lets you integrate YouTube features, searching videos, getting info, managing playlists, even uploading.
And authentication depends on what you're doing.
Right. Basic public data, like search, just needs an API key. Accessing user-specific stuff, like their playlists, you'll need OAuth 2.0 authorization.
And it's free, but uses a quota system.
Yep, a daily quota of units. Different actions cost different amounts. 10,000 units a day for the free tier, typically.
Okay, so free, but you need to manage your usage. Finally, OpenWeather.
Provides real-time weather reports and forecasts. Temp, wind speed, humidity, all that. Need to sign up for an API key.
And different plans, like the SportsDB.
Yeah, free tier usually gives current weather, maybe short forecasts. Paid plans unlock more features, historical data, longer forecasts.
The article also gave quick mentions to others like OpenSky Network for flight data, the MovieDB, Open Food Facts, ZenQuotes, DeepGram AI for speech to text.
It's a really rich ecosystem. And the key takeaway, as the article stresses, is always check the documentation for each specific API. Rate limits, off, terms of use, they all vary.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap, the article did answer a few common questions, like the role of APIs in cloud integration.
Fundamental, really. They're the glue connecting different cloud services, storage, compute, databases, and connecting cloud platforms to existing systems. They enable that communication and automation.
Okay. And can you use these third-party APIs within, say, a WordPress plugin?
Oh, definitely. WordPress has built-in functions, it's HTTP API, to help you make those external calls.
But you need to be careful.
Yeah, securing your API keys is crucial. Handling the responses correctly, and caching is usually a good idea to improve performance and respect those rate limits.
Makes sense. Similar considerations for integrating with something like a WooCommerce theme.
Pretty much the same principles apply. Secure authentication, careful data handling, general security best practices to protect your site and user data.
And the last one was about CSRF protection. Is that needed for APIs too?
Yes, absolutely. Cross-site request forgery is still a risk, especially for APIs that change data.
Is it handled the same way as in web apps?
The goal is the same, prevent malicious requests, but the method is often different. APIs typically rely more on token-based authentication, like those AWTs we mentioned, validating tokens in headers rather than checking hidden form fields. But yeah, protection is necessary.
So security is always key, whether it's a full web page or an API endpoint.
Always.
Wow. Okay, we've gone from the basic idea of APIs as messengers all the way to specific free tools you can use today.
They really are that connective tissue for modern software, enabling speed, reuse, collaboration, unlocking so much potential.
And the sheer number of free public APIs is just incredible. It really opens doors for anyone to start building things.
Yeah, it democratizes access to data and sophisticated functions in a way that wasn't possible before.
So thinking about all these free APIs we've talked about, getting jokes, weather, sports scores, maps, images, country data, and this core idea of building on top of existing services. What unique problem could you, listening right now, maybe solve? Or what creative app could you start tinkering with just by connecting a few of these tools that are already out there ready to use?